Hey y'all, this is going to be a different video from the usual. It's going to be more of an interview on me and myself and just kind of introducing myself to you guys. It was an idea of my sister's, I guess, to, let y'all in, I guess. Let's just get into it, I guess, and I promise the gaming will come back soon. Probably the next video y'all see.
Okay, so I'm gonna start off with the softball question, right?
Hmm.
What's your earliest wrestling memory?
My earliest wrestling memory. Well, let's see. This was before I actually started watching wrestling. It was when I was like about 5 or 6. I think Dad had ordered an old WCW tape, which is an old wrestling company. It was, the Big Show is.
Yeah, I know who the Big Show is.
Okay, thank God, somebody. And Hulk Hogan, correct?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
Who's in
Hulk
that
Hogan and
movie
Big Show.
with the three ninjas?
So, I'm sorry.
Who's in that movie with the three ninjas? Remember?
Unfortunately, I was hoping we wouldn't have to talk about that. But Hulk, yeah, Hulk and him were in the ring. Well, Hulk was outside, scared of Big Show because he was giant, and I was like, "What in the world is that?" And I walked away for a bit, and I came back into it around, I want to say 2003, whenever we went to Granddad's for that WrestleMania. I don't know if you were there,
I
but
wasn't.
I went to my granddad's house, our granddad's house. I said my we're on an interview today, but we went to our granddad's house and just watched WrestleMania, and it was again the Hulk Hogan versus The Rock this time, and this time's a little different because my dad and Steve, my dad, and my uncle Steve, our dad and uncle Steve,
Yeah.
both were for Hulk Hogan. I was for The Rock, so there was that dynamic of like competitive. Oh, I want this guy to win. I want this guy to win. So it's kind of fun that way. But yeah, that's my earliest earliest memory. I
I
can't really remember much.
I thought the Big Show came well after Hulk Hogan, or am I
Hmm.
misremembering?
Hulk Hogan just overstayed his welcome. We'll put it like that.
Oh, okay. Because
He
I
was
think
wrestling
of
since
him
like
as like
late '70s, probably.
I think of Hulk Hogan as like 1980s.
Yeah, that's when he hit his stride. Mid '80s, early '80s, and then on to he stayed in wrestling in the business until about 97, and then came back to WWE again in 2000 something,
Hmm.
about 2002. I remember he tried to leave to go do movies, and then
Yeah, we know how that turned out.
yeah,
um,
God bless him for trying, but it didn't work.
yeah, he did I mean, I guess you could argue that he had acting um experience
Mm,
because of wrestling. If you think about it, wrestling really is like a soap opera slash a play.
yeah, unfortunate. Yeah, I put it like I said before. Most times I like to put it as a live stunt fight with storytelling in it because I don't like soap operas. So
So
I
you
don't like it.
try. Yeah. It really
Like
is like a play though. And like
it is.
honestly, there are some really crappy plays. So you know what I
That's
mean?
true. Yeah, that's true. That's
It's
very
not all
true.
Macbeth. What drew you to wrestling at first? And I guess I'm going to talk about because I have different questions for like actual wrestling, like you did in high school.
Oh Lord.
But this is more so like what drew you to pro wrestling because you were into that first.
What actually drew me to it? I can't even physically tell you
Hmm.
what actually draws me to it. It's kind of the thing with everything. It's like it's on the TV or something, and you see it, and it's just you just get pulled into it because it's I don't know what it is about it. It just has this effect to it. It just like it brings you in, and you're just watching. You're just like whoever's on that screen at the moment. And for me, I think it was probably The Rock that had me in that feeling. And then as I got older, I just started watching more guys, and I got more into knowing into more wrestling and getting into like how they wrestled and stuff, and then go on to more guys and blah blah, stuff.
So I do have a question, but I guess you just implied that it's not possible to answer because I wonder what is the appeal of wrestling?
To
But I suppose
me,
you just said that it's not really possible
it's
to say.
it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain for me. Like for me, it was good because I just can't explain the feeling out like being drawn to it. Like, oh, I don't like it was just on, and I just felt like I liked it, and I just wanted to watch it more of it and just consume almost nothing but wrestling, as you probably know.
Yeah, yeah, you
Uh,
did. That and Pokemon.
well, yeah, Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and all that good stuff.
Did your view of pro wrestling change after you started wrestling in high school?
Oh yeah, because I thought that was real until like I was training for it. Like when I saw the wrestling team like training, I was in my room trying to like throw punches at the desktop at my dresser because I thought that's what was going to happen. And
You
I
mean
found
that you thought so you were using pro wrestling to prepare yourself for real wrestling?
yeah, 'cause I didn't
Okay.
know I thought pro wrestling was real at the time.
Okay.
So yeah, I was just getting in there, getting into there. And I was like, oh, this is different. This is what Kurt Angle was doing. So, like at Kurt Angle, he was an Olympic style wrestler
Hmm.
and got into pro wrestling afterward. And so I started to want to use that to get into it, of course. So I started, and it was fun. You know, obviously, you've seen how it affected me at the time. Me and Nick and all them, we
Yeah.
were all just on there, just having a good time, pretty much. As for my mentality, it didn't really change. It just made me think I could actually do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
If I was actually wrestling, like actually wrestling, then it could transfer over to pro wrestling as well.
Hmm.
But
So it
that's
didn't
probably
make you look down on it. Like you didn't go like, "Oh, that's
not because
not real wrestling. They're
not because
fakers."
by now everyone knows what it is, right?
Yeah.
It's not like it's very to me it's disrespectful to call it fake to them personally because they put their bodies on the line and everything like that.
Hmm.
They jump, they take all these bumps and everything. So they're taking all this physical stuff, physical
Yeah.
damage. It is planned, but it's still taking physical toll on them.
Would it be correct to say that it's kind of like you can liken it to like stunt work? It might not
Yeah,
be like actual Olympic wrestling, but it is stunt work and you do get
pretty
hurt.
much. Like let's say you know how Jackie Chan used to do his own stunts.
Oh hell yeah.
Like say
It does.
put that on TV instead of editing all the stuff. Like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was put that and that's live entertainment basically. It's live for TV. And now there are times where it is edited and you can see when it is, and that's fine. Especially nowadays they're trying to do more cinematic stuff.
Do you
It's been
think that's
okay.
a good do you think they're going in a good direction, by the way?
Right now, it's hard to say because of the pandemic. They have to do what they can to kind of make content anyway.
Hmm.
So I would say it is good and it's better in certain ways and it's not in other ways, if that makes sense. It's like
Well,
with
what aspects do you think they should change for the better? Like, what parts do you think they're not doing so good?
oh, there's so many things. Well, for WWE mainly, like the main poster child, like they don't know how to get behind a specific character anymore. It's like the
Okay.
machine. It's like I put it like it's a machine, kind of like Walmart and McDonald's. It's just the same stuff every time.
Okay. Because you had mentioned before, and I wrote it down. I have the paper. Let's see.
Hmm. Oh
Um,
wow, you sure did.
yeah.
It looks like you typed it
You had
though.
talked before about, let me see, you said that they don't invest enough in their characters to become actual stars. Is
Yeah,
that what you're talking about?
exactly.
Yeah.
And
Like a
so
Muhammad Ali kind of
and
a
back then WWE actually spent time to cultivate that.
thing.
It didn't happen overnight. It's not something where the fans were like automatically in love with them or anything like that. It was a organic thing. So it's like, for instance, you didn't watch this back then, and I didn't either. But apparently, a long time ago, The Rock was actually hated before he was loved, and so
Because he
that's
played kind of like that. Because I remember he played that really boastful kind
not
of
even.
character,
Like
didn't
here's
he?
here's where we dig into more like lower like into deeper wrestling stuff that you don't don't know. But like I'll put it like this. So good guy and bad guy stuff, right?
Yeah,
Well,
bad guys and heels.
a lot of fans like myself, if you're being too goody goody, too much of a white meat baby face type of thing, like oh just a blue chipper, just look good at, it's like a good guy with a good face, a good smile, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. He
Blame.
came out with that, and so a lot of people
Really?
were, yeah, that's how he debuted. And so what happened was they changed his. He got involved in a group called Nation of Domination, and changed his character around. And next thing you know, people started to like him now. With it, and they're instead of and like they're actually entertained by this guy instead of hating the person, like the person and not the character. If that makes sense.
I would probably call that like cultivating like star power. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. Like it has to be organic too, because like if it feels like it's being pushed down your throat, just like in TV and movies, you can feel when a character is being pushed down your throat. It's like
Yeah.
I don't like this character, but they still shove it down your throat. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah, I can see that. Like kind of like it feels forced and
yeah,
inorganic,
yeah,
basically.
exactly. And so whenever it's not organic, most of us can tell, and so it just doesn't work too well.
But
And
when I would I think you could probably argue that part of that is to do with the person himself. Like if he or she doesn't have that charisma, then
No,
no
they
one
all
really
do. They
would.
all do, definitely. It's just the fact of WWE. Well, mainly has a problem. Well, Vince really is the problem because he has a certain mentality of what someone's supposed to say and what this character's going to say. This, and
Okay.
so they can have a whole like because they script everything obviously. So
Yeah.
they have a whole script like ready and everything, and then he could change it last second before they go out. Literally.
So I wonder, is it like okay, so there's two kinds of scripting. There's like obviously there's the line by line, like normal
Mm-hmm.
scripting, and there's
Well,
like Laurel and Hardy did this kind of scripting where they would just have bullet points of what would happen, but what was
mm-hmm.
actually said they would improvise.
See, that's what wrestling is supposed to
Okay.
have. Like that's what most wrestling companies use is that bullet point type of thing.
Hmm.
In fact, a lot of wrestlers don't even need to use that. They just go out there and they don't even they just call it in the ring and we don't even see it most of the time. So, uh, um, but yeah, they'll do the bullet point thing. They used to anyway. Now WWE they a lot of times they say it's because of the stockholders and all that stuff when they went publicly traded and stuff. So they had to do everything for them. So they have to over micromanage everything so nobody can really be a character anymore.
Okay, I see.
If that makes sense, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes
Nobody can go out with their own voice. They have to kind of earn their own thing. Like they have to earn their stock in the company to be able to earn that ability. If that makes sense.
so they
So like,
don't have the freedom basically
right,
to
right,
actually act and do what
exactly,
they're supposed to
exactly.
do.
Because all those wrestlers they have they all can do what they need to like they could be the most entertaining thing they are right now, but they aren't. Like you remember in the '90s, it was actually entertaining. Like a bunch of people were actually into it,
Yeah.
and now it could just be because it was just because of the time. I don't know, but a lot of people, WWE likes to say, "Oh, because change for the times." So no, that's not what it is. You're just outdated. So,
Honestly, this is a rare compliment for wrestling from me. But I feel like wrestling is one of the last places where it's more organic. You know what I mean? Because now if everything feels like so scripted and so like corporate, like
yeah.
everything.
Mm.
But wrestling is one of those last kind of mm, live sorts of entertainment, like kind of like you're watching a play, basically.
Pretty
It's
much, yeah.
last.
That's why I guess that's why I've liked it so much is because whenever you're watching like you said, it is live and it's a performance. So it's a perform and they're performing for you and everything. So it's just like you said, it's just a live play on TV pretty much. And
Yeah.
it's good for the most part, but it's been declining for a good few years, but
As
luckily
well.
other companies are coming up. Other companies are coming up a little bit and finally trying, not really challenging WWE because they've been around for way too long to actually challenge them right now. But other companies are finally getting on TV and stuff, getting exposure.
Yeah.
So hopefully, that'll send WWE. Oh, we actually have to do something now.
You think that that'll kind of make them have to change because they'll have more competition.
Exactly, because
Okay.
This is gonna sound interesting, like not interesting, but kind of weird. But like in like the mid '90s, WWE had a low period, just like now. But even before the pandemic, though, it's like had a low because all the stars had left, and they had to make new stars again.
Mhm.
So here comes, and this is like the era of like Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, and all them stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so that those were the new stars that were coming up. They had to build those stars.
Okay, so sometimes Steve will watch wrestling and like I'll be looking at it, just because it's very bizarre, okay, to
Mhm.
me. But
I will tell you now. A lot of us, I won't say a lot of us. Well, some of us do not know like everything that's happening on the screen. So I'll tell you
okay.
that. So
Well,
certain segments
I
I will
wanted
not
to
like.
know
Most segments.
what do you think of that? There's this dude who's trying to be real spooky and he's got these little puppets and he's
Oh
these
God, I knew you were
posters
gonna talk
and
about
it's
it.
so
Bray,
cringe to
Bray
me.
Wyatt. Okay,
Cringe.
okay. So he is doing this character on purpose. It is a kind of like Pee Wee Hermanish like character,
Yeah.
but there's that darkness or whatever. Huh?
It reads as like 12-year-old edgy to me.
Yeah, that's basically what they are right now. They're trying. They're old. They're because like I said, Vince. He's an old man. Trying to write for kids. This is not going to work.
Yeah,
You
true.
have to have young minds writing for young people and stuff like that.
Okay. So
Also, you need more diversity too, because a lot of
for sure.
times you don't see a lot of, I'll say, different cultures up in there. So you're gonna see a lot of white folks that don't really know, like let's say the black experience or anything. So they're gonna say something like this when they wouldn't. You know what I mean?
That's
And
actually a problem I've noticed in like movies and TV shows
mm,
too,
yeah,
where people think representation means just like having more, for example, black actors in movies.
and
But if you have black actors being written for by old white people, they're gonna be a freaking stereotype.
exactly. So
Yeah,
with that, we're having that problem with wrestling too.
yeah, it makes
So that
sense.
it bleeds through everything, of course. But
And whenever there
um,
is a like a for example like we said a black character who is written by a black person, it's obvious because they're
yeah,
actually written like a human person.
yeah, exactly. And that's really what we're missing in wrestling these days is a lot of the higher ups are not black, Hispanic, whatever, all that kind of stuff. They are
No.
most of the time old white men,
Mhm.
and old white men tend to want white a white person as the head or something like that. You know what I mean? So
And also just because they're human beings, their what they write is going to be based on their experience and their limited
yeah,
experience. And
exactly.
so they can't know what it is to be a black person or a woman or
Yep,
they can't.
that's true. But they at least should take the time to understand its difference than their existence.
I think they should, and you probably agree, they should understand that they can never understand another person's point of view, and so hire different people and different
Exactly.
yeah, a diverse writing group for sure.
Exactly. And not just because they're black or anything too, but or Hispanic or whatever, but because they have that background in writing, and also they can write that experience
Yeah,
for
exactly.
you. I mean, it's just,
I
and
think
also
this
it's
is
a long story that goes into anything. So,
this is kind of like well, kind of different topic, but just like a sort of a thing where people will always say, "Oh, well, you shouldn't hire just because they're certain race. You should do it because they're the best for the job." But what people don't realize is that for a long time, you were considered best for the job if you were white. That was like
hmm
the prerequisite. So this
hmm
whole affirmative action, whatever you want to call it, thing is kind of trying to correct that, basically.
yeah. hmm
Um,
Yep. And whenever you tell somebody that, and I've seen this a lot of times, white folks would be. Yeah, and it's funny that we're talking about this as white folks, but
but
certain,
we
I'll just say
know though, like we benefit from it.
two out of two out of how many though? Two out of how many? Because I've seen so many other white folks get so mad when they try to point out, oh, this is different. This is how it's different, and there's clear evidence that this is how it's different for us, and they
Yeah.
still get mad. It's like we're
You
not
could
saying
bring
you're the
up you could bring
yeah
up the fact that it is actually proven that white people are sentenced to lesser sentencing for the same crimes as black people. It's literally proven. We have proof of this.
Mhm.
But no, 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 no. Absolutely not. Nope. That's
And
for
then when you
shame.
want to say, and then whenever you say, you want to change, like you don't even say defund the police yet. You say we want to change, like dismantle the system, make it better to protect everyone, and not just a select group of people.
Yeah, exactly. I do think because I have read that the problem is in a lot of places the police don't get a lot of funding. Personally, I think we need
And they also don't get the training they're supposed to get too.
that's what I think. I think we need to give them better training. And like don't police a certain area. Just you know what I mean? They police
Yeah,
black areas way more than white areas.
yeah, and they're not from that area either. So what
Yeah.
they need to do, I know this is easier said than done. Also,
Mhm.
because we're just talking, but
Yeah.
it should be people from that area or around that area that know that area, and not just somebody from the hills or somebody from freaking College Station. They're not gonna know as downtown. You know what I mean? Like down Fifth
Yeah.
Ward and stuff. So it's just something that it's already an inherent issue, and people just don't want us to talk about it. If they don't see it, and they're just like in the matrix, and I call it the white matrix because like
Yeah.
there's a lot of just like you literally don't see it, and it's right there, and they're
Honestly,
just
I feel
yeah,
like the reason people don't see it is because if they do, it makes them feel like they're doing the bad thing, you
right,
know? It makes them feel
yeah,
guilty.
mm-hmm,
And it should make you feel bad. It really should because it
mm-hmm,
sucks that it's happening, you know?
right. And it's at least just acknowledge it. It doesn't make you a bad person. It just means
Yeah.
it's happening.
It
And
just
then
means that a bad thing's happening on the planet where
and
you
then
live.
we just need to do our part to help, and
Yeah.
just like not be a part of the problem, basically.
Yeah. Don't
Anyway,
don't say things like black people get arrested more because they commit more crimes because that's actually false.
right?
It's
In
false.
fact, the fact I've seen and heard a lot of, I'm pretty sure you know about this too,
Mhm.
how the young black community has to dress a certain way that we don't have to. Like
Yeah.
they can't wear hoodies a certain way a lot of times, or they have to like make sure they're dressed a certain way so the cops don't stop them
Yeah.
before they stop, and hurt them before they would get to us, I mean. And I have several situations where I probably should have been stopped where I was walking
Same.
at night.
Same. I
So,
walk every night or after 8 p.m. I like to
mhm.
take a walk. And I
And that's
know if I were black, especially if I were a black man, I would be
mhm,
stopped all the time.
me. Yeah.
But
I
I
mean,
don't.
I've been stopped once, and that was by the apartments, and that dude was a black security guard, and that was just once. And a lot of other cops will just drive by, and they
Yeah.
may stop and say, "Hey, what you doing?" And then I'll say, "No, I'm just going home, whatever." And then just go on about my business and everything.
The only time
So,
I
and like
ever
you said,
got stopped was because they thought I was a kid, but then I told them
mhm,
I was an adult.
right? And
But
I'm sure
they're
you had the ID and everything.
but they never like honestly, they usually just like, how old are you? And I tell them and then they're like, oh,
That's
okay. They
it.
don't make me show ID or anything.
Mhm,
I know if I were a black person, they would like frisk me and look for my pot, or whatever.
mhm.
I want to ask you about so I had heard about this Pressler this
I thought
pro
you were gonna say
wrestler
pretzeler.
this
All right, I
Pressler.
guess you ate a pretzel here recently. Yeah.
We're now going to call pro wrestlers Presslers with cerebral palsy called Gregory Iron. How did it feel seeing a wrestler with CP?
Uh, well, let's see. That is an interesting thing because I never actually got to watch him wrestle yet. He's actually on Twitter, and that's where I found him. And he is on the Indies and stuff like that. And he doesn't. He's not on TV, which I hope changes very soon, hopefully. But from what it's inspiring to know that someone's out there doing it,
Yeah.
because that's what I wanted to do, be the first one with CP to do it. But he is doing it, of course, so he
Bastard.
won that. Yeah, but it's okay, all love and all that. Maybe I'll be number two or something. We'll see. I
Nathan, you don't want to be a number two.
mean, it's better than number three.
That's true. We all know what number three means. Oh, okay. Well, this kind of goes into how did you feel when you were first diagnosed with epilepsy and your dreams of becoming a wrestler were more kind of unreachable?
You said when I heard I had epilepsy,
Well,
or
like
what?
whenever, I mean, from what I recall, you're wrestling, you had headbutted someone, and then
Oh yeah,
you seizured.
yeah.
And then that was kind of like, okay, this is not a thing that you can do because of your epilepsy.
Well, I mean, what's funny is I stayed on the wrestling team that entire year after that. Now, I will say I didn't wrestle as much because the coach probably wasn't going to put me no more matches after that.
Yeah.
After I just had a seizure on the mat, so a lot of the matches I had after that, which were very far in between, were like very easy, kind of chill matches or whatever, like JV matches, not even real matches, really just a match before the show. Like they would roll out the mat and then just let the younger, like the lower tier wrestlers have a little match, and then they would get into the real event.
You know what I
But
remember?
the way I felt,
Yeah.
uh, it kind of kicked me because for a while I was just in a daze, didn't really have anything to do. I didn't
Yeah.
really know what to do after that. Just kind of just sat around for a while, and then had to wait. As you know, had to wait on getting that ID, so I couldn't even get a job. So I was just standing around and just had nothing to do but wallow.
You know what makes me
Just
think
wallow.
of? It's like whenever Rock Lee had his leg broke.
That's exactly how it was. That's exactly how it is. It's exactly how it is. Now I'm Guy.
Your guy should say, he's in a
I'm
wheelchair.
yeah.
In Boruto, Guy Sensei's in a wheelchair, but he
Yeah.
still be doing stuff.
He
Like
does. He's
walking
like
on
he
his
be going
hand.
on his hands and stuff.
Yeah.
I finally started watching Boruto, by the way.
So I know, and you know, because you were there, that you had
Hmm.
to deal with bullying like a lot growing up. So
Hmm.
elaborate on that.
Well, there's a lot of things that when I look back are different as well. Because as you know, whenever you're a kid, you don't really see what's going on around you at the moment. So
Yeah.
the bullying, that's one thing. But at the same, and then like having kids come up to you and say, "Are you retarded?" and stuff like that. It's like not knowing what I have,
Yeah.
so I don't know. So I say no, but I'm just like I don't really know because I can't explain what
Did
the
you not
CP
know
said.
you had cerebral palsy? I mean, you were wearing that boot since you were like 3.
I was yeah, pretty much. I was wearing that from 3 to about 12, 13.
Yeah.
And then Dad said I wanted to stop wearing it, so he let me stop wearing it.
Bad idea. So bad.
It was, but I just didn't want it on me. I just didn't want it on me in school like that. So uh, I probably should have kept it on, but
Yeah.
and also look at well, let me get back into the bowling because you asked that first. Uh,
Well, you can take a detour if you want to take a detour. We
well,
can.
it was just there was the way the boot was. It was a 90 degree, and it
Yeah.
didn't like flex my ankle, so it kept my ankle straight, but it didn't like flex the muscle to actually walk correctly. So it just had my foot in like a peg leg kind of.
So it didn't cause the muscle to atrophy.
I think it did. I think it did. But like my new boot now has like little flexors like it's like little rubber like things. So it's actually flexing the muscles when the foot's walking. So
Okay.
that does. And then my foot. And then uh, what else? Let's see with that. And then of course the arm surgery that never worked. So.
That was, I wondered what happened with that because, like, I remember you had the surgery and then you still couldn't use your hand.
It was supposed to get rid of the crooked fingers, and it didn't work.
No.
I
I can
was
actually, this is not, I can make my fingers because I have my fingers that are jointed, but anyway, I can make them See?
Oh yeah, see,
I can do it.
I don't know when, because I remember you doing that whenever you were a kid
Yeah.
too. And I'm just like, and I
Me
thought
and Andrew both.
I probably thought you were mocking me a couple times.
Well, see, Andrew and I didn't think of it as mocking. We just have
Yeah,
freakish double jointed fingers, and we were
yeah.
like, "Look what we can do, Nathan! We can make our fingers look like yours."
Like, well, yeah, that's no big deal. I can do it too. Yeah.
So like, we didn't mean it as teasing.
Oh, of course, yeah, no, that's the
We were
actual
kids.
difference. I think that's where kind of the shell shock came because at home I wasn't treated like a disabled kid, and so when I went into
Yeah.
school, I was treated like I was treated differently. Like for instance, in like third grade in my math class, they took me out of that class and put me in a room by myself with this teacher. And it was like the isolated learning type thing. Then they from then on, I was in like fundamental classes for math and reading and stuff.
Was the instance where you were with like the one teacher, was that like an interview to see if you needed remedial?
Yeah, it wasn't no interview really. It's just well, you know what? It could have been. I don't even know because it was a
Well, I
packet
mean,
work.
like, I wonder if it was her trying to figure out where your skills were and
Right.
if you needed to go to
And
remedial.
I don't. They never really assessed my skills to get out of it, if that makes sense. Like like there was always some of those teachers that say, you know, you probably shouldn't be in here because I do pretty good at certain things, and they just never took me out of those programs.
So,
So
do you think they assumed you had to be in remedial classes because you
yeah,
have CP?
uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah.
they did. And I can see at the moment because, you know, whenever at first, you know, I stuttered and all that good stuff. So I assumed like from afar, it looks like I would struggle. So like he needs to stay in this. But basically what happened there was I got mentally stunted.
Mm.
So everything, like all my math skills and all that kind of stuff are trash. Like I can't really remember many times tables, all that stuff. I can count money real easy. I can count money in percentage pretty easy because you know
That's
the
really all you
money.
need to know how to do is count money.
Yeah, I can count money real good. You know, and I estimate money really good. But when it comes
Yeah.
to like multiplying and stuff, now then again, I had to apply that at Wendy's, so that was forced on me. I had to know how to count money, otherwise I'd get in deep trouble.
What I remember about, because obviously I wasn't in any of the remedial classes, right?
Hmm.
But or what I remember is we weren't really, our schools weren't really equipped
They
to
really weren't
help disabled kids, and so
right.
no matter what your disability was,
They
they were
just
all
shoved you
kind
in
of
the same room.
shoved together. So you would have someone who, like for example, a CP with someone who has Down syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like
And
those are
basically me
different
and
needs.
Sean.
Or like with an autistic kid, and they're like, well,
Yeah.
those are different things.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. And so there was that, and then the actual bullying of people just laughing at how I run, and laughing at how I walk, with my limp, and just my hand, of course, and then people running from me because they don't want me to touch them. I don't know
Yeah.
if it was just, they just don't want to touch my hand or they just think I'm disgusting, whatever it is. I still have that complex to this day sometimes where somebody will just like wrench back. I just get a look like, did I do something? Like,
So
is
you
something
assume that
wrong?
they're doing it for you, even if they might not be necessarily.
Exactly. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, whenever Jasmine, she'll, like, let's say, like, I got sweat on my hands or something, and so it'll be a little clammy. And obviously, it's fine, but I don't know because it's like, and I gotta remind myself real quick it's just the sweat on my hand, not my hand being from me. So
Yeah,
there's
it's
that.
not that it's a crooked hand.
Yeah,
Or I guess the hand's not crooked, just the fingers.
yeah. And she was actually one of the first ones to actually acknowledge it like it's a regular hand. So that was nice.
Yeah.
She actually went out of her way to hold that hand when we first met. So that was nice.
To make you feel like, because I can imagine growing up with that sort of stuff going around, you might have thought of yourself as like the elephant man. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a
Oh,
monster, don't look at me.
well, yeah, that's why I would have my hand balled up all the time because it would set. It's like, and a lot. I was that kid that'd be like, "Hey, show us your hand" or whatever, and I'll show them the hand. and or run and like ham up my run so they would laugh a little more. So I'm just like, hey, if I can make them laugh, that's cool. That's fine. But like, so I would ham up my run a little bit, make them laugh, and all that kind of stuff.
So it's kind of like it's better if you make people laugh at yourself than it is if they
Yeah.
just laugh at you.
And that's when the self-deprecation came in. So I'm just like,
Yeah.
that's why I self-deprecate so much. So it's like it's a defense mechanism.
It is kind of like keeping power, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I guess this is kind of a good question that popped in my head, or you can be the judge of whether it's good, right? But how do you, so let's say there's people right now who don't know how to address a person with a disability, like a visual disability. Should they just completely ignore it? Should they never bring it up? Should they bring it up? You know?
Um, it really just depends. Like if someone, like I'll say this, like if it doesn't look like they need help, don't get involved. Like if they need help, please do go help. My God, please help. But
Yeah.
if they want to be left alone, you can usually tell in their body language. Like you know who really cares whenever they're trying to check on you. You know what I mean? So like you can tell if they're being fake when they're talking to you
I
in the
guess
way they speak.
I'm not really talking about like asking if you need help. I'm talking about like you want to strike a friendship with a person who has
Oh,
a disability.
strike a
And like,
friendship.
should you just like never ever talk about it ever?
Well, with me, like for instance, I don't talk to Sean about his at all, and I haven't asked his mom or anything either what he has either. So to this day, I don't know what he has. We think he's autistic or whatever, but I don't know for sure. But I've never asked just because I never really felt like it's good to ask. I don't know. So I can't really say on that. But like with me, you can like for me, you can ask me questions as long as it's not you're not gonna be disrespectful for no reason. You know what I mean? So like you can
Yeah.
ask me questions for sure. Like
Well,
why does your foot like that?
what would be disrespectful? I feel like probably if you're more able-bodied, you don't really know what's considered disrespectful. And honestly, I would probably
Um,
say that um, there's a bit of ableism in that because you assume as an able-bodied person that bringing up anything that is different from an able body is like bad, and then that's ableist in and of itself.
um, I put it like I had an example at work one time. There was a I can't remember if it was a guy or an old woman. I can't remember or both of them. But they were saying, "Oh, it's just great that people like you are working." I was like, "I think people like me are working.
Yeah,
What's it supposed
okay.
to mean? Like I'm working here, like." And one guy that did it respectfully, like he asked me if I had. He was an older man. He asked me if I had CP. I was like, yeah, because I was just like working. I was like going fast. And the reason why he asked was because he was like a specialist or something like that, like a doctor or something like that. He worked with them for many years, so he had just asked because just want to make sure he was right. So whenever it's something like that, that's cool. You know what I mean? For me, and I don't mind talking about it whenever somebody actually wants to learn about it. But if you're just like saying, "Hey man, what's wrong with your leg?" You're gonna actually like if you're just like if you just ask me just to be a dick and to be loud, because there's those people that be like, "Hey man, what's wrong with your leg?" or something like that.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. And it's like, "Hey, why can't you run so fast?" and stuff like that. And it's like, now you can tell when they're asking because they care. You know what I mean?
So whenever it's coming from a place of wanting to learn, then it's
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Like a
And don't
genuine.
self-impose it. Like if they don't want it, like if they want to be left alone, leave them alone. And like if they want to talk about it, talk about it. If they don't want to talk about it, don't talk about it. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
basically like that. Just like with everything else. It's
I
like
think,
let's.
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying like just like with any kind of problem. Like let's say you don't want to talk about. Uh, I'm trying to think of something nobody wants to talk about. Like somebody don't want to talk about their parent problem. They don't want to talk about that. Okay, cool. We want to talk about that. Talk about something else.
Would also, I guess, and you can tell me whether this is right or not, but I would assume that you don't want the friendship or relationship to be only about that.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
don't
So
talk
it's
about it
like
all the goddamn time.
yeah, exactly. For instance, like Nick never brings up my disability at all, unless it's a question of like how I'm doing or whatever. It's like, hey, how's that going? How's this going?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So, but never really ever bring it up. Like I don't think we've ever had an actual like we've ever had a conversation about it. Like he's always just kind of known about it and just known
Yeah.
what like everything that goes on and everything. I'll just tell him this how this goes, and he just knows. And we just never even talk about it. We just do what we do,
It's
talk
just a
about
part
stuff
of
we
who
like.
you are. It's like it just is. There's no point
Yeah,
in making a big deal about it.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So I mean, and that'll come with the friendship. So you'll be able to feel it whenever you're talking to someone. So um, I mean, you just approach it like they have a like they. Well, I'll put it like this: like going back to how you address someone at like when you first come up to them trying to be a friend. Just introduce them just like you're introducing yourself to another person. Just like
Yeah.
not like don't like acknowledge it, but don't acknowledge it. If that makes sense. Like shake like look at them. Like let's say they have a like eye problem or something. Don't like stare at the eye problem. Just be like glance or like look in the eyes real quick, and then just like look around, make sure they know they're not. That's not the point of focus and stuff like that because it's like one of them slippery slopes because you never know with certain people. Some people don't want to be friends at all anyway, and so they're just going to be standoffish. And then some
Yeah.
people do. So it's just like regular people,
That's true.
like if they're not a friendly person, they're not going to want to be a friend. So it's just a
I guess I'm assuming that the person is friendly. I'm not
yeah,
assuming
just
that you're
yeah,
trying to be friends with an asshole.
exactly. Yeah, just I would just say just treat it like any regular person, and if it comes up, yeah, that's cool. Ask them if you want to know what's going on. Like, hey, I observed this. I saw this happen. So, do I need to do this or that, or whatever, or not even ask somebody that. I don't know why I said that, but just be like, just not even really make that the point of the conversation, pretty much. Like if
Mhm. So
like
you should basically, the moral of the story is, from what I gather, talk to them like a human being, and don't make the relationship about the disability. It should be about the person. And just like with anything else, the more you get to know the person, the more you learn about them.
yeah, exactly. It's just like how you're friends with folks. Like you're not friends with a woman just because she's a woman, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like you're not just friends with a guy just because he's a friend. I mean, just because he's a guy. So it's just
yeah,
like it's the same thing.
yeah.
But I mean, like again, if you want to learn about it and it's like, yeah, I just want to learn and see, learn more about it, then yeah, that's totally fine. All that kind of stuff. But if you're like, like I said, asking like a douchebag, and no, I'm just not gonna. I'm just
And
not gonna.
also, I could maybe also say, don't come at it like you're studying an alien creature.
Yeah, please don't. I hate that too. Oh my gosh. Oh, the people would be staring. Like I mean, just like,
It's like,
I
okay.
was like, did I have some on my nose? Like, come on now.
Like, the thing is, though, it's not like you have a butt for a face. Like, calm down, you know? Like,
Yeah.
it's really not that big a deal. But
Well, hopefully that made sense. Hopefully
no,
that
that
made
made sense. I think it'd be helpful for people because, like I said, I feel like if you're not a thing, you don't really know whether or not you're being rude. You know what
right.
I mean?
Yeah. Like I answered the question, I forgot.
Well, I mean, if you want to add more about your experience with bullying, you can.
With bullying? Well, I mean, there's really not much more that's already I can add that's already out there.
Mhm.
Because we all know what bullying, like the action of bullying was. It's like picking
Yeah.
on someone, all this, and that. I never actually got in too many physical fights. I've only got in about two, maybe three tops. And even those weren't really heavy scuffles. It's always been just the mental thing,
Yeah.
mental torture for me. Never really got the physical beat down a lot of times. It would just be a lot of like there had a lot of be just a lot of mental stuff pretty much. And because of that, of course, there was a big chip on my shoulder now. So whenever someone is treating me or Jasmine wrong, I get all defensive and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when should not, I should not make a scene. I should just walk on, let it go.
Do you think um, teachers and the school system should do better to stop bullying. Because I feel like at the time, whenever I was a kid, they really just turned a blind eye.
They did, and then a lot of times they would just catch the reaction. They wouldn't catch the bullying act. They would catch the reactor.
Mhm.
So the victim would get more in trouble than the actual bullying. And a lot of times, from what I remember, the teacher, reason why the teacher didn't say much whenever I was getting the bullying was because I was laughing when another person in that class was being bullied. And I was like, yeah, because she's laughing when I get bullied. So I'm just
That's what
laughing at
kids
her.
do as well. Kids, honestly, are kind of assholes. Like,
Yeah. It's like
sorry.
she bullied me. She laughs at me when I'm bullied, so I laughed at her. So, yeah.
I remember also you used to laugh at the most inappropriate times.
Horribly, and I
Was
tried my
that, could you
I,
not control it? Or did you think it was
yeah,
hilarious, just genuinely?
it was one of them things. It might have been a nerve thing because I would just look at something and just start like I would like look at somebody's face or something, and that one like little change in face would make me laugh or something, and I'll just start giggling. I'm just this is
My
not the
dad
time to
would get
laugh.
so pissed off because
Yeah.
he'd be
Oh,
like angry, he'd be fuming,
and
and he'd be
now
cracking up.
Dad. Now it doesn't help that I watched the Three Stooges, and our dad is
All
very
of them.
loud,
All of them.
very reactionary. So
Yeah.
whenever something happens to him, it's just he's yeah. And I do it now too, of course. Like I project like it's in a Broadway, or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
So
So I remember you talking about, like, in the past, I don't remember whenever this was. I remember you talking about how you got into wrestling and, like,
mm,
did you say the bullying stopped, or did it just get better because you had people to stick up for you now?
it's like it stopped. Well, there was actually one time. It was like 10th grade. It was like the tail end of bullying, and it really wasn't that bad compared to what actual bullying can be at times. It was basically these kids. They would be up on the second floor, and they would like throw little objects or whatever at us, at me and Sean. And they would do it every day. Every morning, we would stop. We would be there in front of the gym because that's where both of our classes were closest to. So we just meet up in front of the gym and stuff. And these kids or whatever, they'd be throwing down little paper clips or little paper balls or whatever. And and of course I couldn't do anything because I didn't want to get suspended or anything from the wrestling team or anything like that. So my friends Nick and Josh both went up there, and I can't remember the entire story, but from what I understand, Nick was the conversational one, while Josh was the quiet one. And so that they basically resolved that problem there.
So they
And
weren't worried about getting kicked off of the
no,
team.
no, and I probably shouldn't have either, but I just wanted it. I had already gotten in a fight the year before, and I got I didn't get suspended, but I got sent to what was it, DMC or something, whichever one they do.
Did the other
Uh,
person get sent as well?
I can't remember. Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, he did.
I mean, it
Uh,
is kind of suck that the person getting picked on feels like they can't do anything about it, or else they'll get in trouble.
yeah, it's kind of like well, I won't say it. It's the whole victim mindset. It's like I
Victim
can't.
blaming.
Yeah, victim blaming. Yes,
Yeah.
it's like I can't do anything, otherwise it's just gonna be worse. It's just gonna get worse if I do something. So
Yeah, they wonder why kids kill themselves from bullying, because they have nowhere to turn.
right,
Dark, real dark.
right.
I guess I'll go into some Twitter questions. If you could train under any wrestler, past, present, or upcoming, who would you choose?
I was actually thinking about this recently. Okay, so there's actually different answers to that question. So it's
All right.
always changed. I always wanted to learn from Kurt Angle because obviously Olympic wrestler he translated to that business. So I want to learn that. And another person I wanted to recently obviously is Gregory Irons,
Hmm.
the CP wrestler or wrestler with CP I should say. And and then I would say I would want to learn. I would want to learn from Daniel, a guy named Daniel Bryan as well. He has my style of wrestling that I like. It's like a hybrid of mat wrestling and it's kind of like fast movements and stuff like that, striking and things like that.
Okay.
So that's probably what I would do. That's probably the person I would choose is
People.
Gregory Irons or Daniel
What drove you to continue to push forward and never give up, no matter how difficult it was?
I
That's
really
heavy.
don't know. Like in school, like whenever I was in wrestling, it was just wrestling. And then, Nick came around shortly after that. So that's what really helped me. So I would say that wrestling for sure. And I mean like, the actual form of wrestling, like in high school. And then
Yeah.
before that, I really don't know. It's one of the things like whenever you're a young kid, you just don't know what you're doing really. So you're just
Yeah.
like, you're not even really thinking about it.
Yeah.
So it's just like, now, of course, it's Jasmine, but that's the reason why I try to, keep up and get up every morning. So there's
Yeah.
that. I don't know. It's just basically just wrestling. I just bury myself in wrestling and anime or whatever else I liked, and whatever problems I had would go away. So just like any kind of problems we would have at home or anything like that, I always go into wrestling, watch wrestling, or go into my anime, go into my cartoons, just watch that. Everything will be okay.
So it's a form of escapism,
Yeah, pretty
basically.
much. Pretty much, yeah.
But also, I wondered if, like, for like the actual joining of the wrestling team, if it was kind of like a sense of camaraderie, and like
I'd say so.
belonging.
Hmm. I'd say so, yeah. Yeah, it helped because like I was actually doing stuff, and people actually, it was a community like thing,
Hmm.
and there was no bullying. Obviously, nobody made fun of me or anything like that, and then like everybody treated me like a part of the family or part of the group and stuff like that. So it was nice. Now there was of course little cliques in there, but that's with everything. So
But
uh,
like, were they the kind of cliques that were like, oh, I'm not going to talk to you?
no, it was just like little groups that break off into little smaller groups to talk as like closer friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like family relative, like family get-togethers. Like the closer family members get closer to each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like that.
In your childhood, what else were you into besides wrestling?
Well, as you know, anime, cartoons.
Yes, I know
The
the answer.
full,
The person who asked doesn't know the answer.
right. It's basically a lot of everything that's not cool I got into. So I didn't really get into major like main sports like that. I kind of dabbled in basketball, but after a while I just kind of gravitated out of it. I just liked flashier things like the comic book cartoons, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
All those comic book movies that they have now, all that stuff, and watch all that. The
Did
good
you
ones.
like, because I remember the first comic book movie to come out, maybe it wasn't the first. It was not the first, but it was the first one that was considered good, was the Spider-Man from the 2000s.
Hmm.
They had some really cheapo superhero movies before that were garbage, but that
Yeah.
was the one that everyone was like, wow, this is good.
Yeah, that's whenever they actually took a chance on it, and like they took a chance a little bit on Batman, but they really took out all the comic book elements to it, so it wasn't really a comic book movie anymore. So this and the same thing with the Spider-Man movie because they took some things out from there, but they kept some other things in there enough to make it like a good movie. So
I will correct myself. Batman was first because that was in the 90s.
yeah,
Especially with like the Tim Burton directed Batmans. Those were
yeah.
actually really good.
Mm.
So I correct myself. I was wrong. But I
Well,
wasn't alive whenever the Batmans came out, or was I? I was probably
you
like,
might have been like one or two or something.
you were like
I don't really remember.
3 or something.
Yeah, I'd have to look back at the years and see exactly what the year was. But like, I didn't like it as much as I liked wrestling, but I liked it enough to like I can operate around other people. Like no, I couldn't really talk to other people about wrestling until I met like a couple other wrestling fans because wrestling wasn't like cool to talk about. It was kind of like, as you probably remember, people were making fun of people that were still watching wrestling at that time.
Yeah, I mean, because it was just a bunch of oily men in underpants
And that's
fighting each
the
other. And that's
and
hilarious.
that's the usual stance of a lot of people saying. So
Yeah, yeah.
I get it. I get that. I get
No,
it. It's like
I I remember you really liking like Pokemon games. Remember you had the Game Boy and then the Game Boy
Mhm.
Advance. Remember?
Yeah, that was a lot. GameCube was the
Yeah.
system I had because
PlayStation,
mhm,
PlayStation 1. You
yeah,
got
the
that for
PS1.
Christmas, I believe.
I think so.
Let me see. There
Mhm.
was one more question that I wrote down from the Twitter.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, so this is a really heavy question, right?
That big question,
It's a heavy
a
question.
heavy question.
It's
Okay.
heavy. Do you truly see that some of the people you know look up to you more than you understand? And here's the thing,
Oh,
if you can't understand, then how would you see?
well, since I know what that question is, I don't. From what I'm told, I'm an inspiring figure. Sometimes
Really?
find find inspiration from me. I did not know this. The bunch like Nick and
How'd you
them.
learn? Did someone like tell you or?
People will just tell me what I'm doing is inspiring. So like I'll be on Twitter or something, and I did like workout videos or something, and say,
Oh,
yeah, something like that. And they would say, this is inspiring or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then Nick told me, of course, he inspired me this and that. Or I inspired him rather to like keep going back in the day and stuff like that. And it's like, alrighty then, I will take that. I won't. I don't see it. I don't see how I'm inspiring because I'm just me.
yeah.
I don't do nothing special. It's just I just live. And I guess that
Do you think maybe people see like, well, if he can do it and it's obviously harder for him to do it, then surely I can do it. Do you think it's like one of those things?
it probably is. Maybe. I don't want to say probably, like I know for sure, but I mean, that might be what it is. Like, I don't see what's so inspirational about me, but, if other people can see something, that's good. That's good. So,
I think that's
uh,
probably a normal human answer. Like I don't think anyone who isn't up their own ass would be like, yes, I'm so inspiring. Here's why, you know?
well, I mean, it's not bad if you know you're inspiring someone. Like if you're just if you're living your life and you know you're inspiring someone, like for instance, actors and wrestlers and all those other people know whenever they're affecting someone and stuff like that.
Yeah, but
So
kids watch them,
yeah,
it's
yeah, exactly. So it's just like it's different whenever like it's just kind of different. You know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
a different kind of thing. It's like you're inspiring through more than just your words. You know what I mean? It's just like you're like what you're doing is more more than inspiration and stuff like that.
actions speak louder than
Yeah,
words.
exactly. I probably could have just said
Platitude.
that, but
Platitudes. That's where does that originate from?
what?
Actions speak louder than words. Where does that?
Probably the Bible or something. It's such an
Nah, I
old.
think it's a karate movie. I think it comes from a karate movie. I don't know.
Probably. It's such an old quote that everyone knows it. So
Hmm.
I'm
Um,
surprised at some of the wrestling questions you asked me. By the way,
really?
I'm surprised you can actually follow me on some of the stuff that I'm saying.
I mean, you just ask questions and then you listen with your ears. It's basically
That's true.
what
But
it is.
some people just like that.
I mean,
Yeah,
I don't understand a lot of wrestling, but I understand writing and I understand how that works. So I can try to understand it from a writing standpoint.
there you go. So like that's how it's supposed to be. A lot of times, things get lost in egos and things like that. Just
Hmm.
like in the writing world and everything, and movies and stuff like that, egos can get in the way, and story can be changed because somebody doesn't want to do this or this and this.
I mean, is there anything else you want to say about wrestling or like how it's going and
Well, I will say wrestling. I know I probably haven't like made a good advocation of wrestling here, but I feel like it's good. It's obviously declined, was like everything else has, but I feel like especially now, the only constant thing going right now. Everything else is kind of halted and or kind of stunted, like
stunt wise, or
not really stunt wise. Some people think like for there's a sentiment that it like if they act almost exactly like they did in the '90s, they would be fine now. And the true thing about that was it's not true because there may have been three or four big guys like Stone Cold, The Rock, and everything, but the storylines on the lower part of the cards were just nowhere near par. Like it was just basically trash on TV. So like
yeah,
uh,
I remember.
it just needs to be it just like it's good whenever there's investing into the story basically. Like there's I have to feel like there's a reason why these two people are fighting. Like I don't want to like for instance if there's nothing on the line in this like why am I watching
I
it? It's
think
like
they've done better with that from what I'm gathering, and maybe I'm wrong in my interpretation, but it seems like you're saying that they've done that better now. Like they've gotten better at doing that. Or
other
no?
I would say another company actually has been doing that pretty good recently. AEW is the company I'm talking about. They do pretty good on that. And when it comes to storytelling, they spend that time to actually kind of tell those characters and things like that. Now they do have their own problems as well, but
Mhm.
they're a little bit better at investing in characters than WWE is because they don't micromanage as much. They let you go out there and speak what you're trying to speak. They have their character ideas, but they're gonna let you go out there and speak because that's you, that's your character. So you're gonna do speaking. So I don't know. It's just different operating processes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm not making any sense whatsoever, but
I mean, you're making sense. You make more sense to someone who watches wrestling. You know what I mean? Like someone who's actually a fan of wrestling is be like, yeah, I totally understand that at a
I
better
hope
level.
you can give me good wrestling, I'm good. And like I can look over certain things. Like if there's like for instance, if some wrestlers are making a mistake in the ring or something like that, I can look over that. And like I watch, like WWE has not had good and like made me feel for a character in a very long time. like
Yeah.
for like I haven't been excited to watch a Monday Night Raw. I haven't been excited to watch SmackDown for a long time. It's just I put it on and I watch them. I watch the wrestlers wrestle because that's what I like nowadays, just to support them and watch what they're doing. But for the most part, it's just they're not putting. It's just they're it's just inconsequential basically. It's just going out there just for the heck of it and just wham bam boom. Doesn't matter what happened here because it's just going to be kind of not erased, but it's going to be forgotten tomorrow. So
And that is a problem with the characters. Not feeling like you can relate, or not really caring about the characters themselves.
yeah, and like I said before, I think it was just that one person, Vince. He's the end all be all. So they could have a whole thing written and perfectly fine, but if he doesn't like it, it doesn't go out. So that's like if it's not his way, it's not. It doesn't go out there.
Has
So
your opinion of Vince McMahon changed? Because I remember as a kid, we'd be watching wrestling, or I would be there and you'd be watching wrestling, but we had one TV.
yeah, of course.
And um, like they talk about him like Vince McMahon, and it was like, oh my God, whoosha.
Yeah.
Like, did you think he is a god, or
Oh no,
like
no.
what was your?
That absolutely has changed because I know humans now, so I just know he had to do trash things to try to people to get to where he's at right now. You
Yeah,
know, and I understand it. And I'm not gonna. I just don't. Obviously, you know, we don't. I don't know him personally, so I can't say how he is. But the way he operates and the way he did things and does things now, I don't like. I don't like it all
yeah, you don't.
because he doesn't. For one, also they don't take care of their wrestlers like they should. They don't. They don't take care of their travel. The people have to take care of them. Take care of it by themselves. They have to get to the towns and get to the places by themselves.
That's
But
that's
but
literally.
the workers, but like the referees and stuff, they get all tickets to go to the place. But no, you gotta book your own tickets and your plane ticket or whatever, and get to your own hotel, get your own rental car.
That's
So
so cheapo.
yeah, and they go and they do that because they say it's they call them independent contractors, so they
Oh
get
yeah.
around it. So that's why they've also been under fire because of that, because there's no union for them. So a lot of the wrestlers, older wrestlers too, are just broken down with no money, and so it's just like you're not
Yeah.
take you're not taking care of us after we're doing all this stuff for you. Like what the heck? So
Yeah, I'm assuming it's kind of harder. I'm assuming they don't have like and not what am I trying to say? Like a 401k, you know what I mean? Like a
yeah, exactly.
retirement plan. Yeah.
Right. And now other companies, like the other company I told you about, AEW, they are actually starting to do that now. They are taking care of their wrestlers like that. And whenever they aren't working, whenever they aren't able to work, they're still paying them. And with WWE, they don't do that. When you're injured and hurt, they don't even pay you most of the time. They'll just you don't pay. I mean, they don't get you money pretty much. You just sitting at home, so you just not doing anything.
That's literally suck.
Or was it? No, I'm
Sucks.
sorry. No. You get like the baseline, like a little bit of money or whatever every month or whatever. But it's just like just to keep you on contract. Because like you could be on contract but not be on TV for like years.
And then not so basically you're losing out on income.
Yeah,
Because I
exactly.
assume if you're on contract with someone, you can't go work anywhere else.
And well, because here's another thing. Like I said that wrong when I said they don't pay you. They don't really take care of the injury. Like they'll take care of the injury if it's like a big star kind of thing, but if it's like a lower guy, they're not going to take care of your surgery.
You mean that the lower star will have to pay their own medical
Yeah,
bills
yeah,
out of
exactly,
pocket? Yeah.
exactly.
Because
Yeah,
I assume they don't have insurance unless they buy it themselves,
yeah, and a
which is
lot of times
expensive.
since the when they're in the work they are, insurance companies don't want to cover them because of all the self-inflicted injuries they're doing.
Yeah.
So a lot of times they're just on their own dollar, and so just I mean, the whole thing needs to change anyway. But it's hard to change a system that's been around for too long, for longer than we can even fathom.
But you
So
can say the same thing about the police system. You know, like
yeah, but
it's hard, but it needs to be changed because it sucks.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, now you got me thinking about injuries. So remember that whole story where that dude got his eye out? Remember the wrestling?
Oh God,
Did that
uh,
actually happen? Was that real,
no,
or is it
no.
pretend? Did he actually not get his
I'm pretty sure you're joking, but it was fake. Obviously, it was a fake eye.
eye?
That's why I'm so depressed that we're talking about it, because that's the
What, did
kind of
you want him to lose his eye for real?
no. I just didn't want that to happen at all. Like this is what I'm talking.
Unnecessary.
This is what I'm talking about.
Oh,
We know you're not going to take a man's eye out of his skull.
yeah.
Period. We know that's not going to happen. So don't say that's how you win a match when you can clearly see that's a puppet eye or whatever it is.
And also, that's an illegal move, I would assume, right?
Well,
You
you
know what
couldn't
that
tell.
makes me think of? You know how, like, whenever it's a reality show,
Yeah,
scripted reality show means that it's scripted.
yeah,
And like something will happen and a cut to commercial and dad and Steve will be like, oh, I wonder what's gonna happen. They might like fall off a cliff and die. And I'll just tell them, look, they're not gonna have the person fall off the cliff and die on TV. As you
well,
already know they're gonna be fine. So is it like that with wrestling, I suppose? Or with that certain
kind of
thing anyway?
like it's hard because wrestling is different now than it was in the 80s, right? Like for instance, we most no, I'll say this. All of us should know what wrestling is now. Back then, they were trying to hide it a lot of times. So like
Yeah, which is
they're
so
trying to
dumb. Just
protect it.
embrace it.
So we all know now, of course, that what it is. So whenever we see something like that, it just doesn't work no more. We want to see something more realistic, more actual, like closer to life, like these smaller guys, like actually wrestling is more realistic than them trying to take an eye out and then it's a damn mascot eye, like a puppet eye. Like just
How do you think they can have conflict without making it seem soap opera-y? Because a lot of times it can feel soap opera-y.
It's hard to say because like some people actually like the soap opera stuff. I don't, but I like when it's like, for instance, a lot like you said, like the soap opera thing. Some of the angles where like somebody wants needs a is gonna try is trying to take a girl, or somebody's like going for the girl. It's like that I don't really care for because it's just like soap opera stuff. But like for me, I enjoy like the matches. I enjoy what like the athletic stuff they do in the matches. Um, I do like what Roman Reigns is doing right now. His characters developed a lot better because they put him in like the whole John Cena mode type of thing, where he's got to be like the all American hero or whatever. When really he was just kind of like he didn't give that presence off. If that makes sense, he just came up. He's more dominant, domineering and stuff like that. So they
Yeah. I thought
finally.
he had that really bad rap album. You owned it. You owned it.
I didn't own it. Okay, I didn't own it.
You had
I
it
didn't own it.
illegally on the computer.
I borrowed that CD from a friend. I
Okay,
put
because I
music
remember
on the
you
computer.
downloaded it onto we had it for sure on the computer. I know that.
Yes, we did. Trust me, I am very embarrassed about it. But
So it seems like it's kind of difficult balance because on the one hand, someone could listen to this and think that you're saying, "Oh, you should just stick to showing the fights."
yeah,
But
it's
how do you do that and also cultivate character?
yeah. And I'm not saying it as well as I can, or well as I should. Basically, I mean, they don't spend the time to make stars anymore. If it doesn't cop quick enough, they move on to the next thing.
Okay,
And
I
it's like
see.
you gotta give it time to actually work. Like if they don't like it, if it doesn't work for them right now, then they move on to the next person.
That to me sounds like they're afraid to take a risk,
hmm
and it
Because
might
it's
have to do
already
with like you talked about the shareholders or whatever.
yeah. It's like
Yeah.
it's just that constant thing where they are like TV PG or something like that, so they got to keep in some kind of limits of that. And then
This is a question I have just about wrestling, but it's not really a big question. I just want to know, do men and women wrestle each other, or is it still because
some places do. It
yeah.
just no real big TV companies do that much because it's a little iffy a lot of times, and it's not believable most times. But I believe it can be done if you do it correctly.
I feel like the issue I would have, just going from a writing perspective, it would be really difficult not to make the male the villain. Because
Right,
traditionally,
right,
whenever you have a male who is willing to beat up a female, he is
right,
always a villain. And it'd be really hard to write him in a way that he wasn't.
right. I think the stigma of women being lesser than men is a little bit better in wrestling because a lot of times the women wrestlers are performing a lot better
Hmm.
because they didn't get the TV exposure they did before, or they should have been rather. So whenever they get these opportunities, they gotta show out. So these women wrestlers have been really tearing it down a lot of times when they go out there. So, but yeah, I would say it can be done, but I would say you have to do it carefully though, because like you don't want to make either side look stupid in that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you don't want the woman to just be a damsel in distress and just be destroyed by the man.
that's true.
But you can't just have like the woman the size of a shoe like a size of a doggone mic stand or whatever like beat like Big Show. It
Yeah,
is
it
not
wouldn't be
going to happen.
believable.
Now, if you have like let's say like me versus a girl my size like 5'8" or whatever, like even taller than me. It doesn't have to be the same size or whatever, but you get what I
You
mean,
should
like same
you should
body.
probably the female should probably be taller if she's going to be anything, is what you're saying.
No, not at all.
Well, I
My
mean,
thing.
like either same height or higher.
No,
Like
I would
second
say
taller.
as long as See, because women, like the women can when I see the women wrestlers,
Mhm.
some like I can see which ones will be able to work with men if that makes sense. It's more in their wrestling styles. Like
Okay.
like if they can kind of wrestle with the men, then that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like if they're kind of thicker, like more muscly women or whatever, that not that they have to be like giant or whatever, but I mean
Yeah.
like tone, like actual tone muscles and things like that, which most of them do.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna
like
say they all look pretty muscular to me.
yeah, so like they would most of them would actually be fine with like the cruiserweight guys, 205, 220, nothing too giant, like Big Show or Kane or anything like that. Because now, people are not giants, they're
And
human beings. So,
I think also it's not like they're like punching and kicking and stuff. It's more so like grappling and throwing and stunt work and that kind of a thing.
mm,
And I think that probably makes it easier for them to work together, but it makes it
you would
harder
think
to
so.
write for, like I was
Yeah,
saying. So
exactly. Yeah. And then not have the guy come off as just an asshole for beating up the girl, and then the
yeah,
girl just look weak because she got beat up on. Nobody wins out in that situation. So
that's true.
yeah,
The
so
reason I asked was because whenever Steve was watching wrestling, maybe a few days ago, there
mm,
was a female character who was the girlfriend of the puppet Pee Wee Herman man,
yeah, that's who I was talking
who
about.
was like, she was challenging this dude wrestler to a fight, and I was like, well, I mean, I guess it's okay because he's obviously supposed to be the villain in that case, but like, how do you write that? Was
Here's
my
the thing,
question.
right? You, she wasn't challenging him. She was challenging him for the character she was liking or she works for, basically. And if you're talking about Monday, Prime Monday,
I thought she was challenging him was she challenging him to fight another person?
pretty much, yeah, she was confronting him about
That's
uh,
stupid. Sorry, that's
basically
lame.
he wasn't going to fight her. Basically, was WWE is never going to do that. They
That
toyed
to
with the
me is
idea.
so lame. Basically, it's I challenge you to fight this guy. Not me though. I'm
Yeah,
safe.
yeah, pretty much. It's just a lot of just stuff going on, basically, just random things. And there are good things throughout there, but there needs to be a little bit more change for me. I mean, to say it's like to get more people involved more than just what we have now, because people are leaving wrestling. It's not a secret. A lot of people are not watching wrestling.
Mhm.
So like to get people back in, you need to like make it a little more entertaining. Just like a little more flair, like a little more flair into these matches, and not just like corny ass stuff or corny ass stuff. And just like just treat it like a TV show. Like why are we watching these two characters interact with each other? Right? It's like where we get into like an anime, like Naruto. Why are we watching Naruto and Sakura together? Why are they interacting? Like, are they're just here? They just here on the screen just cause? They're just fighting just cause.
Do you think that it would be helpful for them to look at like wrestling from like the 90s and prior and kind of see, okay, what did people like back then and try
Well,
to find their roots again, if that makes sense?
yeah, a little bit because time like back um, people weren't very open minded back then. So some things flew back then that doesn't flow these days.
That's true.
So I would say take what works that could still work today.
Yeah, yeah. So like obviously don't have the real racist characters.
Yeah, definitely take out all like, and no more like. Here's another thing, like WWE has always had kind of a problem, like in the '90s and stuff, of having people play other ethnicities. For
Oh,
instance,
a lot of
A
blackface, a lot of
Samoan man
blackface.
played Japanese sumo wrestler, and he was Samoan, so he wasn't Japanese, but he played a Japanese sumo wrestler.
I feel like it's probably because people do that in movies too. it's probably basically from a place of, oh well, no real American, white American is going to be able to tell the difference,
Pretty
basically.
much.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, that was true at the time.
yeah,
Like they weren't going, like, a lot of us didn't know what Samoans were at the time.
that's true.
I didn't. I couldn't say what Samoan was if you asked me. Like, what's a Samoan? I don't know.
So I knew Hawaii existed because Uncle Chris
Yeah.
lived there. That's the only island that I knew about,
hmm
Hawaii.
Just like everything else in this country, just very white, like gentrified, I should say.
Yeah,
Like there's certain,
whitewashed.
like you can tell, black or Hispanic wrestlers don't really get to the main event a lot of times. And if they do, it's by special, like it's just like every now and again, and they have to either have to be kind of sneaky or whatever to get where they're at,
Yeah,
or they don't get a lot of TV time or really much of anything to do a lot of times. A lot of times they're just in the mid card, lower card, losing a lot of the times. Um, and either they're playing, characters of jovial, like just, either dancing or whatever, or they're angry.
yeah.
It's like, why is that always the black character? Like, can they be themselves? It's like, they don't have to be just the same, like, happy, like, just, come on.
Hyped up, like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like, they can be hype, but just be their own version of hype. You know what I mean? Like, that's
Does it
how you do
sometimes
it.
feel like they're being written as a stereotype?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. hmm And so that's always been kind of an issue with wrestling, is that everything's a stereotype. So we just haven't broke that stereotype thing yet. You know what I mean?
It feels like with wrestling, with everything, it oftentimes feels like um, they assume that their audience member is a white male. So
Yeah,
everything is meant to cater to a white
right. And
male.
then they'll just pepper in other ethnic wrestlers in there just to make it look like they're
Yeah.
yeah. They'll
But it
have a
doesn't
bunch.
matter if they're written like a
Mhm,
stereotype, then
exactly.
yeah.
Or if they're not even doing anything as well. Like if you have them signed but they're not on TV, what are you doing? It's like,
Yeah.
what's the point?
And I'll say white female as well. I think like first and foremost, they're written for white males, and then
Mhm.
after that, they think about white females. At
Yeah,
the very least, they think about us. They don't think about anyone else.
right. They'll just.
Heterosexuals, I should clarify that everyone is a
Oh yeah.
heterosexual.
Oh yeah. A lot of the like, you don't even hear very much out for gay wrestlers these days. Well, now more than before, obviously, because
Yeah.
before they had to hide it. But now there's a few now in business and whatnot, and they're out and all that kind of stuff. And even with them now, they're obviously still having kind of an issue with, because they don't really get. Also, they don't get enough kind of not publicity, but like investing in the fact that they're not heavily on that they're gay. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
like, oh
I
look, it's a gay wrestler. It's like he's like this guy named Jake Atlas, right?
mhm.
He's a wrestler, but he happens to be gay. But they always like what they do a lot of times is they'll be like, oh, he's a wrestler, he's gay or whatever, and like trying to focus on the gay part
Yeah.
about it. It's like, just focus on the person. It's like, if you
That's how I feel. Because, like, whenever there's a character who's gay, and then it's just like, just can you make them a human first? Can they just be a
right,
human being? That'd be great. Please, thanks.
right, and like, add in the gay stuff later. That's cool, but like
Or
first,
just have them, like, be a wrestler and a human person, and then you just happen to see their, like, girlfriend or boyfriend.
exactly,
And
yeah,
then you just know. Like,
yeah,
there's no, like, these straight wrestlers don't go around going, by the way, I boned so many chicks,
mm,
like,
exactly, yeah.
you know,
No, they're not saying it out loud like that, but yeah, it's just the way they film things, the way they treat things.
yeah, you just
You can
know.
basically see it, you know. So,
Yeah.
and it's always, a lot of times in the main event, it's always a white, blonde, woman, man, or whatever, always on the main event. Uh, sure, there's like dark hair dudes or whatever, but you don't really see a lot of ethnic people up on the top, and if they are, it's not for long. You can even look at the record books. They don't, if they do, it's not for long.
And would you say that whenever a non-white wrestler gets to the top, is it just as fodder for a white wrestler? You know what I mean?
I could actually argue that that's kind of true at times
Uh-huh.
because a lot of times, and I'm probably going to get a little bit of hot water with some of the white folks up in here, but
That's fine.
I would say,
Let him boil.
I've been trying to
Let
do
him
that lately,
boil.
but but a lot of time, well, not even a lot of times, most of the time they won't win. Like you already know what's going to happen
Mhm.
with that, and it's just like you can already see it. And it's one of them things where it's just apparent. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, so he's just gonna be out here to lose to him or whatever. And
And
it's just
that
like,
way, a lot of times it can feel like, and I'm just applying like movies and stuff to the wrestling thing because it's all writing.
mm,
A lot of times it can feel like female characters and non-white characters and gay characters are
mm,
just pawns for the
right,
growth
right,
of the protagonist, who is usually a white man
right,
or white
exactly,
boy.
exactly. Like with anime voice acting,
Hmm.
all the black characters that were in those shows were not black voice actors. A lot of them were white men or whatever, white
Yeah.
women playing black characters.
Hmm.
And so, it's just a perception in wrestling and really in life that uh, if you, it's one of them things where you have to actually see it. You know what I mean?
It's usually just like one person of color
Yeah,
to make you feel like you're being diverse. And then like
yeah,
the white people
exactly.
can pat themselves on the back and be like, we did it good.
That performative stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Basically, that's basically what it
yeah.
is.
And basically, I'll put it like talk, I can kind of verbalize it now. Basically, what they will do is they'll use a black character or wrestler or whatever to, like you said, make another character look better.
Yeah.
They'll use them as like they're great, but they use them to push them up, push another person up higher up. And so it's like, oh, that, or they have to change their character to be a bad guy to win, and it's just like, why? I don't get it. You know what I mean? It's
So
like
it's
they,
either they are there just for the development of another character,
yeah,
or they can't be good.
yeah, like they have to act a certain way to get higher up in the company, basically.
I
Like,
can see that, yeah.
yeah, they gotta act a certain way, and it really shouldn't be that way. With every other wrestler in there, it's not like that. I can tell because I see it. Like all these other white wrestlers don't act like that, and they're at the top. You know what I mean? So it just,
I wonder if that again comes from that fear of like you talked about, oh, if they don't make it right away, then they're cut, or I wonder if that also comes from like that fear. Like, are they afraid that if they don't write in the most racist way possible, that they'll lose their base or something?
no, they could. I really don't know. It just depends on the people because I don't know them personally. I don't know how they
Yeah.
operate. But if it was me, I would hope that they would be like, no, I don't care what they think. But knowing that it's a business, they don't want to lose that money. They probably don't want to say something like that. Like
But
kind of like,
like the way things are going, especially now, it's kind of cool to be more aware of the injustice in life.
well, it's
But
too
you'd
late
think
for
that
them.
they'd be losing. Eventually, they are. If they don't write better, they are gonna start losing people, I think.
I
Or
mean, they've been losing viewers for years and years now.
that's
And we've all been kind of basically echoing the same words, like it needs to get better and all that kind of stuff. And now these other companies are coming up and doing their own thing. And now, of course, not all of them are on TV. There's like one or two tops that are on TV right now. Not even in the same league, of course, WWE, but they're still on TV. They're getting views and everything. So it's something, but it's not enough to actually change what's on. Like, because whenever you think of wrestling, you think of WWE. And a lot of what their stuff is like there's a good analogy Roman Reigns actually made. So it's like McDonald's. It's like constant, same thing. You know what you're going to get every time. It's going to be Big
Yeah.
Mac, fries, nuggets, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just constant. It's just garbage just there. And
That's how I would describe a lot of music now.
mhm.
Not
Yeah,
every music, because I actually heard some songs that I think are really good.
yeah,
But
of course.
a lot of the music, recent music from I would say the 2000s up to now, have felt a lot like that. Like just like mass produced.
Yeah, just
Would you
to
describe the
put stuff
wrestling
out.
as mass produced?
Uh I think WWE is
That's
mass
what I
produced
mean, I
for sure.
suppose.
I'm sorry.
I said, I guess that's what I mean because that's really the only wrestling I am aware of because it comes
Yeah,
on TV.
yeah, absolutely. That's really the problem too. Is they don't nothing feels special in WWE anymore. It's just like it's happening. Okay, cool. Like the
Now
way they
that
were
I'm
acting. I mean,
thinking about it, what wrestling companies do you watch? Because you obviously have kind of become a bit distraught with WWE. So I assume you get your wrestling fix elsewhere.
well, yeah, I try to. I watch, of course, AEW. I watch Impact Wrestling. I watch New Japan Wrestling, which is Japanese-based wrestling company. I don't. I'm not able to watch it as regular as I would like to, since I don't have their subscription service or whatever. Um, and let me see. I watch some other shows that are on YouTube as well. It's one called MLW. I watched. It's on the come up. Um, it mixes MMA and wrestling in a way that I haven't seen in a long time, which I like. It's a little more realistic. Um, and people like you understand what they're fighting for when they go in there. It's like when it's a tournament, they're going in there to get like they're going in there to actually get the win. Like the win matters. Like if that makes sense.
I'm
And
assuming that one doesn't really rely on story so much as it.
it does, but at the same time, like that's part of the story too. Like
Okay.
for instance, like the tournament as a whole is for this one goal, and so getting that win and getting to the next round should be important.
Yeah.
And a lot of times in wrestling, in my opinion, it's very predictable. You can tell who's going to get there. Like you can look at the bracket of names and be like, okay, so yeah, they're gonna get through here, they're gonna get through here, and it's gonna be these two guys. In other companies, they actually kind of well, yeah, they would change it and kind of change it up a little bit and like excite like surprise wins and stuff like that on purpose. So like to make you think whenever you think you got it packed down, change it up on you and have somebody win you wouldn't think won.
So it's unlike the WWE where it's like, okay, I know who's gonna win. I know how this is gonna go.
Yeah, exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah. Now, of course, there are some they're just bad, but we just don't talk
Yeah.
about those.
I
We
would
just find
say someone could argue that the only reason you know what's gonna happen is because you've watched it so much that you're just you just know. You know what I mean?
that too. But um, that is kind of my thing where I've watched it so many times that I know that I can see certain things that some people wouldn't see.
Mhm.
Um, so there's that, but you can also feel whenever they're just going through the motions too. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, they're not in there to just like they're just going through the motions. They don't care about what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like an actor that's phoning in their lines. You can tell they're trash actors. Like
Yeah. Or
yeah,
they
it's the
don't care.
same.
They might be great actors. They just don't care.
Exactly. Same thing with wrestling. If they're not putting in there, if you can tell obviously what's going on, then most of the time we're not gonna like it. I'm trying to explain like because it's hard to explain since you don't watch wrestling. So the characters.
I see it sometimes if I'm out in the living room.
Mm,
I see it. So like I know of things that have happened. Like I know there's this lady who always dresses in feathers, and I don't know why. She always wears feathers.
I'm trying to think who you're talking about. Oh God, I know who you're talking about.
The blonde lady who's always a bird. And I know about the eyeball thing and the weird puppet man. That's
Yeah,
what I know about.
that's about
And the
it, right?
Japanese woman.
Oh, you know about Asuka? Okay.
Yeah, Asuka, yeah. Duh, she was around with the bird lady. I don't think she's a bird, but she wears feathers, and that's what I call her. I'm sure she's a beautiful human person, but she
I,
wears feathers. So
yes, it's Charlotte Flair is her name. Uh,
is it? Wait, wasn't there a wrestler called Ric Flair?
yeah, that's his daughter.
Oh, that's interesting. Did he wear feathers?
Huh?
Did he wear feathers?
That was his thing. Yeah, he used to wear robes,
Oh,
extravagant robes and
he
stuff.
was a bird. That's why she
Yeah,
is.
so she carries on the thing.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, there's like other wrestling chicks, but I don't know what their names are. They're just like people, I guess. I don't know.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I will say it seems like they're getting a lot more than camera time. The
Yes.
females, like back, I remember whenever we were kids, there was China.
Yeah, and that was it basically,
Yeah,
right?
that
And that
was
was
like
it.
no one else.
So that I can say is better. That the perception on women has changed at least a little bit to where it shows that women can actually wrestle.
Would you say that they're now more respected as athletes?
I think they're just getting started to get their respect.
Uh,
I don't think they've got it 100% yet, but I think they're at least starting to get it because
yeah.
a lot of all these women wrestlers so far have been exceeding all the expectations that I've seen so far. A lot of the times their main events are better than the men main events. So, you know, I think they have the talent to
Guess what
finish.
I mean by that is the view of them by the audience. Because whenever I was a kid, the women were viewed, except for, like I said, except for China, they were viewed as just sexy. They were
Yeah,
there
it
to
was
be eye candy.
yeah, literally like a bathroom break, whatever. Like literally nobody, almost nobody cared about what the divas were doing back then because they were just undressing and stuff.
Yeah,
So And and what's sad was during that time there were some actually good women wrestlers in wrestling, but we just never saw it because they were too busy just showing us the eye candy part. They weren't showing us the actual women that were wrestling in there. They had a few of them, but they just didn't show them on TV.
and I'm guessing that's kind of like the same thing with like not developing your characters.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
so they're getting better, but still need work, basically.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
guess.
So I mean that's with everything. It needs a lot of work. But it's on an uprise for sure. The women's wrestling is definitely getting more respect than it's gotten before, for sure. I think, of course, we still have a long way to go, but it's a good start at least. It's a good start.
Yeah.
It should have been done a long time ago, but it's a good thing we're starting.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of things now, I feel like, well, why weren't you doing this before? You know, like or like with I guess it was in at the beginning of 2020 with like George Floyd and everything. And
Oh yeah.
we
Hmm.
get like a bunch of companies putting out these statements like we stand with Black Lives Matter and we stand with the Black community. And I
Right.
remember thinking, you stand now that it's that you can make money off of it. Why weren't you standing like 20 years ago,
Hmm.
10 years ago,
Right.
1 year ago? Where were you then? You know?
Right. And for some reason they felt like they needed to counter, but then it's just like if that's the truth, then why are you countering?
Yeah, like if
Black
you
lives.
think all lives matter, then you also think Black Lives Matter. So then
You
what?
have to and a lot of times they say that to silence because they don't want to
Yeah.
listen to what that person is
You
saying.
know what that feels like? That feels like whenever we were growing up, it was, oh, I don't see color. So that's what
Yeah,
that feels like.
exactly.
It's like, hey, I experience racism. I don't see color. Okay, good for you, but I have no choice but to see color, you know?
Right.
That's how I feel. Like it's
Yeah.
a luxury to not have to see color.
Hmm.
And we as white people get to have that luxury. That's called white privilege. Hi. But
Right. Right. Pretty much, a lot of white folks can't handle that, so they put themselves in this little bubble of what do you call it? Self-imposed ignorance. This is like
blissful ignorance, you
yeah,
know?
blissful
Yeah.
ignorance. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just put themselves in this world where nothing else matters but them, and it's just like, well, if it's not happening to me, it's fine. Nothing's happening here, so it's
I feel
fine.
like with any human person, unless it affects you or someone you know, you're not going to care about it. You know,
Right, right.
like
But
I didn't notice about how characters are really just like one type of character in terms of like cartoons and stuff until
mm,
Lorian Jr. And then I started to notice, oh, all the characters have straight hair. Even the characters who are dark skinned are actually
mm,
light skinned
mm,
and they have straight hair. And,
right,
you know, Lariah always wants the white Barbies with the straight hair. And it's like,
mm,
well, how do you combat that whenever that's all she's seeing?
right.
You know,
That's
so
the problem.
but if
That,
it wasn't for Lariah Jr., I wouldn't notice it at all. You know,
right,
because I have an advantage of being catered to all the time because I'm a white
mm,
person,
right.
basically.
Now,
Yes.
like you,
Nowadays, I think people are more likely to like call out racism
yeah, which is good.
instead. Yeah,
Good.
because before
However, I
it
don't
was
like how the racism is protected.
how do you mean?
Like they'll just be like, "Oh no, he didn't mean it like that," or "No, that was just something he said." Like, "Oh, well, when
Oh,
he was younger," and it was like stuff like that. It's like you gotta take kind of accountability on what happened. Like with the Hulk Hogan situation when he said the N word and all that kind of stuff. Uh, that he never actually apologized for that.
when did he say that?
It was like a few years ago. There was a big thing where he got let go from the WWE because of it and all that kind of stuff. It was like
Oh,
2015, 16 or so. Yeah,
yeah.
basically because he was talking to his wife about something. It was like his daughter was dating a black man or something. And
Okay, now that's
so,
racist. Like you
yeah,
can't even say, "Oh well, he just said it offhand." No, he was referring to an actual person.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the way he was speaking, he wasn't even really apologetic. You know what I mean? It's like, and then he was already like shortly after he was talking about, can we move on? It's uh, like no, because you haven't changed yet. You have made no effort to change. You just like say,
I feel like the thing that bugs me is like whenever people do that, just acknowledge that you did something racist. Like just acknowledge it. Like
mm,
acknowledge it and either work on it or don't, but don't bullshit me, you know? Like don't try to
right.
say like that you didn't do anything wrong,
Mm.
you know.
That's what a lot of people do these days. So it's just like,
Okay, no, I have to say I'm bad at saying goodbye, so I have to just end it, okay?
okay, yeah, I'll say goodbye here for you. All right, bye.
Bye.